Boston is a melting pot, and tension is building.
Nobody likes invaders in their homes. To have people here, foreigners on your soil, is a great incentive for people to fight.
March 5th, 1770. After 3 days of unrest, an angry mob roams the streets. Hundreds of men who lost their jobs and blame the British gather on King Street and face off against 8 redcoats with orders not to fire. What's about to happen will change America forever. A 17-year-old wigmaker's apprentice, Edward Garrick, lights the fuse. This is how wars start. Private Hugh Montgomery is hit with a club. An African-American, Crispus Attucks, dies instantly. When the smoke clears, 4 more are dead. How Boston reacts will change the course of history. Silversmith and political radical Paul Revere captures the moment British soldiers at Boston. His engraving will fuel the fires of revolution as outrage spreads across the 13 colonies.
Unhappy Boston, see thy sons deplore, thy hallowed walks besmeared with guiltless gore, whilst faithless Preston and his savage bands, with murderous rancor, stretch their bloody hands.
The most formidable army in the world, firing on an unarmed crowd. An explosive image with a title that says it all. The Bloody Massacre.
There was the old joke, you give me a picture, I'll give you a war. Those who wanted to stir things up and to make a statement and maybe even lead a revolution, it made them able to rally others to their side.
News spreads fast. The colonists are avid readers, a legacy from the first Bible-reading Puritans in Plymouth. Boston as the first weekly newspaper. There are now more than 40 papers across the colonies. And the new Postmaster General, Benjamin Franklin, has introduced a revolutionary postal delivery system. Night riders cut the delivery time in half. The communications network connecting the colonies is one of the best in the world. The British have no idea. They hope the news can be contained. Before news reaches England, most of America knows about the Boston Massacre.
It's a very American spirit of an idea, this idea that everybody should have access to knowledge. It's very much like that pioneering idea. Everybody should be able to make their way in the world.
A printer in Connecticut can read the exact same story as a farmer in North Carolina. December 1773. The Boston Gazette breaks another story that will fan the flames of rebellion. The rising tide of anger and resentment forces England's hand. They repeal all taxes, except one on tea. It's not enough. In one of the most famous acts of resistance in American history, rebels dump over $1 million worth of tea in Boston Harbor.
When someone comes along and smacks us, we don't turn the other cheek. That's not who we are.
The British respond by shutting down Boston Harbor. One of America's busiest, wealthiest ports.
Come on out.
Hundreds lose their jobs.
Come on out.
The British mean to strangle any resistance from the rebellious colony of Massachusetts. America is about to change forever.
The growing resentment of the colonists against British control culminated in a dramatic display of rebellion in Boston Harbor called the Boston Tea Party. It all started in 1773, when Britain wanted to save one of its prominent companies, the East India Tea Company, from bankruptcy. It allowed that company to sell surplus tea directly to colonists, bypassing colonial merchants along the way. The colonists were furious. As they saw it, Britain was trying to give a British company a monopoly on American soil. And by bypassing the American tea merchants who traditionally collected taxes, it was cheating the Americans out of money. The colonists decided to boycott East India tea, but for some colonists, a boycott didn't go far enough. Samuel Adams, one of the leaders of the Sons of Liberty, a vigilante group intent on protecting colonial rights, saw the tax on tea as an opportunity to rally support against British rule. Adams had organized groups of colonial patriots throughout the colonies to exchange information and monitor British activities. They were called the Committees of Correspondence and would be crucial in setting up the Boston Tea Party.
Sam proceeded to set up these committees of correspondence, and they started writing back and forth in the different colonies, saying we must stop this. He worked everybody up into quite a state of anger. And when the tea finally arrived, the taxed tea from the East India Company, Sam was ready.
In Boston, the unpopular governor, Thomas Hutchinson, an American appointed by the Crown, ordered the ships to remain in the harbor until the tea was unloaded. On December 16, 1773, Samuel Adams and the Sons of Liberty organized about 100 Bostonians, disguised themselves as Indians, and boarded the ships.
They chopped open the tea and threw it all into Boston Harbor, destroying quite a lot of money.
Onlookers cheered as Boston Harbor became an enormous teapot. Governor Hutchinson fled the city, never to return. Not a single ounce of the several thousand chests of tea shipped by the East India Company ever reached colonial stores.
There were tea parties in other colonies, but nothing quite as dramatic and as expensive as the Boston Tea Party.
In Philadelphia and New York, mass demonstrations forced tea-bearing ships to return to England with their cargo holds still full. In Annapolis, protesters burned both the tea and the ships, chanting liberty and independence, or death in pursuit of it. Outside of Massachusetts, radical colonists burned tea leaves in solidarity with Boston. Others shook their heads at the destruction of private property and the breakdown of law. The British Parliament was outraged by this blatant act of rebellion and proceeded to slap the colonists with a new set of laws called the Intolerable Acts. They were designed to bring the colonists to their knees, but instead spurred them closer to the battle for independence.